Yes, feel this, feel this. You are now listening to the sound of Sports Reports Resort. It is I, your resident unorthodox statistician, going left so much you thought I was southpaw. But I'm not alone, because with me, I have the even kill. Born in Texas, raised in VA, representing New Jerusalem, and he don't care what you say. He said that Jack Nicholson is the best Joker. He is Mr. Logical. Do not bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And do me a favor out there. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate. Do all the free things. Do all the good things. Tonight we're going to talk about some college football, some NFL, picks. NBA preseason started today, so we're going to start a conversation about the East Conference. And then where in the world, while you're out here looking for Carmen Sandiego, we're trying to find Davante Adams. So let's get to it. Get it off my chest right about now. So one of the lessons that you learn early in life, even when you're just looking at a dog, is don't shit where you sleep. And to put a better bow on it, don't shit where you get your paycheck.
True.
So we all got opinions about our workplace. We want things to be a little bit better. But what we cannot do is criticize and shit on our workplace after we lose by 23 points to Navy. That is not becoming of a Super Bowl champion, Trent Dilfer. So they lose the game to Navy. He's having a press conference. He wants to bring his grandson up in the middle of the question, which is cool. You know, it's cute, right? We fell in love with Riley Curry and everything. Bring the kids up. Yeah, and then he comes out and he says, like, what? This ain't Alabama? Like, well, yeah, because any historian or anybody that has kept up with college football knows that Bear Bryant and his son have kept UAB at bay. UAB can't prosper because of Alabama politics. So then to top it off, you know, everybody's upset at him. They're like, yo, you got to apologize. You know, like this is UAB, not Alabama. So then, you know, he doesn't apologize, but then he gets on the show with the athletic director who, I'm just going to put this out there, hired him.
Yep.
You know, and they're talking about volleyball. Trent Dilfer has a daughter that plays volleyball. So what happens is they're having a conversation about volleyball, and Trent Dilfer says, well, yeah, if you want to play volleyball at a top-notch program and a program that's going to take care of you, you want to go to Louisville. That's where his daughter goes. So the athletic director says, or UAB. And, you know, and Trent's like, oh, yeah, and UAB, but Louisville's got it going on.
Any jobs opening up in the near future?
Now you can do this when you're, you know, 11-5 or 12-4 in your first 16 games. But when you're 5-11, you should probably shut up, coach football, be appreciative of the job that you had. Because real quick, let me tell you a little bit about UAB. You know, back in 2006, UAB tried to hire the one and only Jimbo Fisher. Board of Trustees said, no, we can't afford that. And we ain't going to do it even if you could get boosters to pay half of it. In 2011, they said, hey, it would be really nice to have an on-campus stadium. And the Board of Trustees said, we ain't even going to vote on it. You know what I'm saying? 2014, they voted to close down the football program. They actually stopped the football program.
I remember that.
Yes, and it lasted for about 6 months because fans and boosters came together, raised $17 million and pledged it over 5 years and said, we're going to foot the bill so that we can have a football program. So after the fact, you know, they come back, they win the conference title in 2017, back when they were in CUSA. So this is the question. We know exactly who and what UAB is and made of. What are you made of, Trent Dilfer? Who are you besides the dude that was fortunate enough to hang out with Ray Lewis.
Sometimes it beats like that. It's all about who you know. Trent Dilfer, like I think the Elite 11 and the cachet that he got from being like that quarterback coach.
Mm-hmm. John Gruden style.
Yeah, like I think John Gruden used it to further discuss what he really liked. I think he really liked having young guys in there working off the whiteboard, going over the plays, going to the field. I think he enjoyed that. I don't think he did that with like this grandiose like idea wrapped in within it. Whereas the Elite 11, I think Trent Dilfer really just thought like maybe he thought he didn't get the quarterback tutors he should have gotten throughout his college career and then into NFL. And he was like, I'm gonna start this new camp. I'm gonna have all these guys ready. But that doesn't make you a good head coach.
Right.
And I think the name, sometimes the name is enough of a draw to get you 2 years, maybe even 3. But eventually, like the shine fades off no matter what you're doing.
Right. All right. So what you
But
got for us?
I got a little something about just team logistics. And from what I know, like I said, I'm a fan. I made this. I made it. Had an epiphany last week. I was a little crazy at my son's football game. I was a little extra. I'm talking like I know all the stuff that's going on, and then me and another dad, and then like they end up pulling out the victory. This week they weren't so fortunate. They end up losing to a tough opponent. But I was like, you know what? I am not a coach in the stands. I am not the athletic director that hired coaches. I am not the offensive coordinator that coordinates the play packages. I don't do any of that. I'm a dad and I'm a fan of the program. So that's how I'm going to behave in the stands. With that being said, Miami, I'm not an exec, but I said 3 weeks ago when Tua got his concussion that he would probably be ready in 2 games. I think media pressure had you guys put him on the IR because the IR automatically locks him away from the team for 4 games. I believe that benefits the team because it can keep the roster spot open. So essentially, they can bring up another player. So if they want to bring up an 8th offensive lineman or 7th cornerback or even like a 3rd quarterback that they got off the practice squad, it gives them that flexibility because he's on the IR. He doesn't count against like the game day roster or something like that. But you knew you didn't have a viable backup and you knew you had a quarterback that you were concerned about injury history, even if it was his back, like he said it was a couple years ago when people believe it was a concussion, or just his size, the fact that he went to 2 different body frames between last year and this year, the fact that he was taking judo classes to learn how to fall to avoid getting.
Oh, I thought he was prepping for Ryan Clark.
Ryan Clark used to kill people live on TV, and like they just let it cool, and then they gave him a podcast afterwards. It's crazy. It's crazy what happened when you depends on the timeline you fall in your life. Tua probably would have. Tua in that concussion condition would have played the following week back in '96. I believe a concussion was what made Troy Aikman and Steve Young say, you know what, it's a wrap. Mm-hmm. I believe Aeneas Williams came in on a blitz and hit Steve Young. I'm not sure what happened to Troy Aikman, but
it was like LeVar Arrington.
He came through. Washington Dallas game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I get that we've seen greats in their career with concussions, but Tua probably would have played in '96, '97 after that 10 days. But you knew you put him on IR for 4 weeks. You probably shouldn't have. You should have waited till he was cleared, given him a couple weeks, checked him out again, and you wouldn't be sitting because I think he still has to sit a whole nother game, and then they have a bye week mixed in there. So it's like you already had the bye week. He has to miss the game after the bye week. So if you just would have said he's injured, he's on the injury report with in concussion protocol, you could have had him after the bye week, which would have essentially been 4 games if you didn't have a bye week. So now basically he's gone for such an extended period of time that not having a game, but you're gonna have like the problems that fester because Tyreek Hill knows before the bye week, after the bye week, I'm still dealing with whatever terrible quarterback I had prior to the bye week. I think he's been under 60 yards his last couple of weeks. Miami, I understand that you're looking out for his best interest, but in the same sense, I felt like it was a public decision. They did it so that the public wouldn't come down on them. These guys are out there gladiators. I'm pretty sure a lot of them rather die on the shield than have a doctor take them out of the game. It is the bravado, it's the toughness, it's the moxie that comes along with coaching and managing football players. I think they caved to potential public outcry and put him on IR prematurely. Because, like I said, when he got up and walked off the field, I was like, he's going to be good in 2 weeks. He'll be good enough to play in 2 weeks. He'll pass whatever tests the NFL has in place. He'll have them. Long term, if you're going to extrapolate one injury to the rest of his life, yes, we can all say, you know what, that is a terrible idea. He can get another one. But as far as like a guy who just signed a $200 million plus contract, he's not going to want to stop working 3 weeks after he signed that deal. Especially considering how hard he's worked his whole life to get to this point. And you think you're going to let 21 days from the time he signs and then that be the last he plays? Unlikely. So I think they could have been wiser about it, or they could have really gone out and gotten a quarterback. Jared Stidham, they could have gone out and, I don't know, poach someone off someone's practice squad that was a viable passer of the ball. Or
hey, they went and got a Pro Bowler.
True. I mean, maybe they should have been in the Mac Jones deal in this offseason when he ended up in Jacksonville. Kenny Pickett, because Kenny Pickett's he's not gonna get any run in Philly. So I think they mismanaged it, and what it's gonna cause is, as we're gonna get into the Davante Adams trade, Tyreek Hill, I don't know how his money's laid out. I know he restructured his deal like this offseason, so I think technically he's getting paid more than any other wide receiver. But I don't know if that says for Jalen Waddle. I don't know if everybody's going to want to be there. If it's like, listen, if this is what I got to deal with, and I'm out here running routes for cardio in this Miami Heat, I could do that in Kansas City and actually get the ball. So Miami, you mismanaged this. I understand it's a tentative.
Well, I think this is I think this is a situation that you can't really broad brush. You gotta take the feelings out of it. No, it's not about feelings. If I think that you get to a point at times where you have to save people from themselves. So, like you said, he's going to want to play. Players always want to play. But if this was an isolated incident and he had a concussion, then okay, like, hey, it happens. Let's get you healthy. Let's get back out there. But to my count, and this is me, I don't know what the Dolphins are officially counting, but in my eyes, he's had at least 4 concussions over the last 2 years.
You got 4? I got 3.
At least 3. Okay, at least 3. Okay.
That I could when he
sit your ass down.
When his knees buckled, that was one. That was a little bit more worrisome than the second one, because I think the second one would have given anybody a concussion from the way it happened, because he had a defensive tackle who was coming around and sacking him, and he had a hold of he was on the ground. He had a hold of Tua's back. So when he pulled Tua down, it was just straight back to the ground. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen's getting a concussion in that situation. Patrick Mahomes, goddamn Lawrence Taylor would get a concussion in that situation because it was all leverage. He literally was whipped. He came around and pulled him. So I don't know if I think I saw a clip one time of Gus Frerotte when he headbutted the pad. That didn't look crazy, but then he had another time he was talking about him and his teammates celebrated, and it was like just a basic face mask bump, and he felt like he had concussion.
Well, once you start getting concussions, you're prone to more concussions, and
it's like a sprained ankle,
right? And that's why I say we're talking about your head, though. Like an ankle, okay, you can sit down, put some ice on yourself, and get yourself back to health at some point down the road. We're talking about your head. You know what I mean? We've done investigation studies. We're learning more. So to your point, yeah, back in 96, he would have played, but that's because we didn't know what we know now. That's because we didn't have the knowledge base. But I can't, in my mind, I don't want to say knowingly put you in harm's way because that's what football is in the first place. But once I got to start thinking about your future. Because you ain't going to do it. You know what I'm saying? I got to start thinking like, hey, not only is Tua our franchise quarterback, but we talk about how barbaric the sport is. They don't care about you. You're just a body. So then if a team shows that they care, we're going to be like, no, don't be caring about him. Let him back on the field.
I don't want it to come off as me saying like I don't care about his symptoms. I just knew that I know feelings are really my thing, that he was going to pass the concussion protocols. So if the NFL has established these concussion protocols, independent neurologists, outside neurologists, if they've put all of that in place, then live and ride with what they have determined. I felt like when they put him on IR, it was to get ahead of it.
So you mad as shit right now. You mad as shit right now. You want Malik Neighbors on that field this weekend, huh?
Well, see, Malik Neighbors just had his concussion. It's the first one, and it looked bad. Like I said, he got his head slammed down. So if he didn't pass the protocols, then no. Like, you put the protocols in place for a reason. You put them in place to divorce yourself from how you feel about the decision. If the protocol says you got to remember the alphabet from E to W, and you got to say it backwards, and then you got to remember your grandmother's address from 1960. If that's whatever it is, and you pass that, then you make the determination then. I just felt like they put him on IR because they felt like they were protecting him from himself. And I was like, you have a protocol in place. Let that play out. And then keep going. But like I said,
we'll revisit it in week 12 when his ass is laying out again.
Well, don't dive head first into people's thighs.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it is
a lot of players get concussions every week. Hence why we have the protocols in place. I think Tua's just the Luke Kuechly. I know because we're gonna be short on time tonight because we got a lot of topics. We don't want to go too long. But I remember Luke Kuechly when he had his concussion and he was sitting on the field and they were trying to talk to him and he was up and he was like, remember that game? It was a standalone game. And I remember he was like just breathing real hard. And I thought like something happened to his ribs.
Yeah.
But in everything after that said that he was so confused by what was going on. It was like a panic attack because he had no idea what was going on. He didn't know where he was. He didn't know why he was there. So he was panicking. Like, why do I not know what's going on? I'm looking like I know I'm wearing football. I know I'm on the field. Why do I not know what's going on? And you can see like the panic in his face. So like, okay, yeah. Well, you need more looks.
Well, all I gotta say is Tua keep it up. He gonna be joining Christian McCaffrey in the Larry Holmes Gardens retirement home. You know, but
Christian?
Yeah, Christian. Yeah, he done out here. But so we brought it up. Davante Adams, the malcontent. He's been upset for a few years ever since him and that old thing broke up. So, now we're trying to figure out where does he go? Where should he go? Who should want him? So on and so forth. So I'll get it started because we already know that we got a disagreement. So
yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah. So this is my thought. And I'm going to talk to my hometown real quick. By the way, the Commanders will see you next week. But for the time being, I'm going to talk to you about this. If you don't go get Davante Adams, you are committing negligence and malpractice. You drafted Lamar Jackson almost 7 years ago. And the best wide receiver that he's had in his time is the ghost of Odell Beckham past.
You give him Hollywood Brown?
No, I ain't giving him Hollywood Brown. You remember all those passes he was dropping? Hollywood. If we're looking at Hollywood Brown now, then yeah, but I'm talking about Hollywood Brown then. You know what I mean? And then,
Oh
you turn around
God.
and then you turn around and you can make an argument maybe for Zay Flowers, who is only in his second year. And, like who else have the Ravens? They had Sammy Watkins, who was in and out the lineup. So when you look at it, you have a two-time MVP, one-time unanimous. You went to the AFC Championship game last year. And if you had anything that resembled a wide receiver, you might have been playing San Francisco in the Super Bowl last year. So now the Chiefs are in the middle of trying to three-peat. You started off 0-2. You let your offensive line go. Maybe you righted the ship, found your identity now. Why not push everything in and say, let's go get it?
I don't, and maybe it's because the best plays I see Lamar make are off schedule. I don't view him as an on schedule throw of the football. That doesn't mean it doesn't make him a good quarterback. Like I think Trevor Lawrence is a great on schedule thrower. I think Kirk Cousins is a great on schedule thrower. I think guys like Sam Darnold. I think even Aaron Rodgers, they're great on schedule. Dak is another guy. Like, listen, the route combination is this. I got a dagger route, so I got a 9 up the seam. I got the outside guy running the deep end. I got this guy running the post over the top. Like, I'm waiting for all this to work, and then I'm gonna get this guy on the drag route, like because all this is gonna be occupied. Lamar doesn't seem to be a kind of quarterback that works that particular way, and Davante Adams seems to be a wide receiver that needs that. Davante Adams needs to know if I'm running this deep dig route, that at the top of this route, when I get the shimmy and I cut it to the middle of the field, when I turn, the ball is going to be there. I don't think Lamar is going to get the ball there often enough to where that route or running any of those kind of routes is going to make him feel like this is where I made the right decision.
Yes, and
Yes, and
you know what I'm saying? That's a very good point. The problem is that I don't know what Lamar can do because he's never had a receiver of that capability for us to test this theory. So yes, you're right.
Yes, and
he's more of an improviser.
They've called those routes, and I imagine that if Lamar Jackson throws 40 passes in a game, I imagine that Zay Flowers runs the exact route he's supposed to run, and Bateman runs the exact route he's supposed to run. I just don't feel as if he makes that throw consistently enough in his 30 or so pass opportunities. He just doesn't make that kind of throw. Whereas give me a guy like Odell Beckham. That was one of the things with Baker. Baker is a playmaker. He's always looking to make the big play, or I'm gonna take it with my legs. Tom Brady would stand in the pocket and wait for Mike Evans, Gronk, Antonio Brown, and these guys to work open because the routes are supposed to do this. So he bounces there and he slides and he bounces and he gets that off. Baker takes off. Kirk Cousins is another guy, stands there, waits. I'm gonna get this is the route. It kind of sometimes it bothers me as a fan because I'm like, yo, just take off and get to 7 yards. But if I'm running my third or fourth 30-yard route and you don't throw me the ball again.
So I think of that as more coaching than player, though. And because the coaches have to put, like you mentioned it last week, right? Coaches call the plays, players execute them. You know what I mean? So you have to put Lamar in the position to do those things. And they haven't had any receivers that demand because this Odell Beckham that he had was not that Odell Beckham. Zay Flowers is a rookie, smaller dude that's crossing routes and things like that. Like Rashad Bateman is probably hurt more than he's actually on the field.
And those guys, like the touchdown that Zay Flowers, and the touchdown that Zay Flowers scored in the AFC Championship game against City he was matched up with a linebacker from the jump.
From the snap, yeah.
So that ball is supposed to come out 8-10 yards because I got a wide receiver matched up with a linebacker. But he ended up getting him the deep shot because he just kept working away from the linebacker. Pre-snap, I think Herbert, Burrow, Mahomes, Josh Allen, I think they see that pre-snap. And I think Davante Adams will see something like that pre-snap, like, yo, I'm in the slot. I think they're working a safety over the top and a linebacker underneath. I'm going to just sit right here. You need to see this same thing and get me the ball right here.
So from your perspective, you don't think that that's something that Davante can mentor Lamar with?
No, because the thing that's going to benefit the Ravens without if Davante doesn't get the ball or the wide receivers don't get the ball in Baltimore, their drives won't look unsuccessful because they have Derrick Henry. They can run the ball either direction with him, and they have Lamar.
So where do you think is a good spot for Davante Adams?
I think a good spot for Davante Adams. Obviously, I think the Jets because I think him and Aaron Rodgers would just figure it out. So that's kind of that's the wash.
Yeah.
If I'm a team, I think Atlanta. I think Atlanta would be good. And it's not because I'm biased. Like I'll just if we just look at what guys are doing.
Atlanta need to get the ball to the guys they got.
Mooney is the number 2 guy, and he's getting open a lot. If you bring in Davante, that puts him and Drake London as 1 and 2, 2-1, however they want to slice it up. Now you put Mooney in the slot. He's been getting open all year off the number 2 corner. He'll do damage off the nickel corner, and then you'll have another target. I think you might even be able to move Pitts in that deal because they don't use Pitts effectively in the offense anyway.
No, last night was the most yards he had since his rookie year.
Yeah, so you move Pitts and then you bring in Davante. I'm pretty sure they have the cap space because they're not paying anybody that kind of money on the and as far as skill positions. I think people say Washington. I don't like that either because you have a rookie that plays off schedule as well.
Yeah, I don't want it. I've heard Detroit.
I mean, I don't know if the Rams have any. I don't know if they hit that. That doesn't work.
No, I don't like that. I've heard Detroit as a mention, but I don't know how that works because obviously you just paid Amon-Ra St. Brown and you're trying to get Jameson Williams like into the more involved.
I heard New Orleans with Derek Carr.
That could make sense just because of their relationship, but I still don't like it.
I like Derek Carr, New Orleans, Davante Adams more than Lamar, Baltimore, and Davante Adams. Because not just because their college relationship, I think Shaheed in the slot, he's like I said, he's already shown to be dynamic as your number 2 guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now you put him in the slot where Olave and Davante Adams, I'm pretty sure she's probably like he's probably the faster.
I just don't like the dynamic of I have an established number 1. So like for like Dallas, I've heard Dallas's name, for example. CeeDee Lamb is obviously where the buck stops when it comes to wide receivers in Dallas. So you bring in Davante Adams in there, does nothing and you just pay CeeDee Lamb as well. But bringing Davante Adams does nothing to me because I don't want to say controversy, but it's just like this is my team. This is my spot.
The reason I think and I understand that piece. I don't like the Dallas piece because you're essentially paying 2 guys to be number 1s, but then you can't call plays because I don't know how good of an offensive play caller Mike McCarthy is, but I don't know if he's going to be able to tell Davante, you're number 1 50% of the time, CD, you're number 1 the other 50%. And we're paying you, the 2 of them, $2 million a week or like something like that.
Honestly, if I was looking at teams,
like $3 million a week between the 2 of them, some crazy number like that. I'm like, yeah.
So Davante Adams is getting a little long in the tooth, right? Like he's got a few more years before it starts to wind down. So if it wasn't about trying to find a playoff team, because I would imagine like, he wants to go to a contender or, those type of things. If it wasn't about that, I don't even know why I'm about to say this, but I actually wouldn't mind the Giants. From the standpoint of put them next to Malik Neighbors and say, Daniel Jones, show and prove. Like, we gave you this money. You've been getting criticized.
It's
Like,
creative. I haven't heard anyone say it.
and
I don't agree because it's the same argument that I have for Lamar. If we watched Receiver last year where he was mic'd up, and maybe he said more because he was mic'd up, or where he was really frustrated with Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo was a good quarterback, but he wasn't like the force multiplier. He wasn't like the guy. And then Davante comes in is like, he's the guy. I'm a dude. We gonna make this work. Daniel Jones is not gonna make it. Like, it's not gonna move the needle. Like, I mean, is it an upgrade from Gardner Minshew? Maybe, not really.
I think it is. I think people understate, and I'm not a Daniel Jones fan, but I think people understate how bad the Giants have set him up for success, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's letting Saquon go, whether, it's just now bringing in Malik Neighbors.
But have you, like, because, like, sorry to cut you off.
No,
But
go ahead.
I remember last year I was saying he was a top 10 quarterback, or 2 years ago. And,
2 years ago. Season. Time flies.
Yes, we were doing a show for a minute. I feel as if he looks exactly the same as he did in that meteoric rise that he had to get his deal. I feel like when he was getting his deal, it was like, yo, you're up and coming. It's like a rapper. You hear his bars, like, yo, okay, this dude's got next. He puts out the album. It's 12 tracks. It's incredible. But now we sign him to the big deal. We put him on tours. We send him all these places. We put him on TV. And now 2 years later,
you know what?
I'm getting a watered down version of the guy I signed.
You are real foul right now. You are real foul right now.
How is that?
Because I know you represent in Jersey, but there's no need to talk about Fabulous that way.
Just cut it out.
No reason to talk about FABO like that.
Listen, Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy. Yeah. But like I said, like, that's what it looks like with Daniel Jones. It's like, who else got a deal recently? And it was a lot of these quarterbacks. I feel like they have.
Well, I think that maybe Daniel
with
Jones.
Davante Adams, I can't see him going to a guy that's still trying to win his own locker room.
Maybe, and that's why I said if it wasn't for, because I'm sure he wants to go to a contender. If you take all that out and just think of teams that he could go to, like, but we'll pick that up, at another point, So of course it's week 5, so that means picks. So what I'm saying. But before we get to the picks, we're gonna let Mr. Logical tell us about them Dirty Birds.
Yo, so I'm gonna keep it 100. Shout out to my lady Reach. She got us tickets to Pink. The second time this year we've gone and seen Pink perform. First time we were at Philly, then we went to MetLife last night.
Let's keep her away from Garth Brooks.
Incredible show. I still got the wristband on.
Mm-hmm.
Pink, she's like an athlete amongst artists. She was literally doing like the silks with no harness, and then she did the harness thing when she's like flying around the stadium like Tinkerbell. It was crazy. But I was also checking in on the Falcons game on my phone in between like costume changes and stuff like that. Like I still got to keep it on. Like, I like my team. And as we were driving up to the stadium, she was like, I'm so happy. I know there's football on tonight. And she calls them the Atlantics. She don't call them the Atlanta Falcons. She's like, I know the Atlantics aren't playing tonight. I'm like, yeah, they are. She's like, what? I'm like, listen, I'm not going to not go to a concert to watch a football game like I watch on my phone or get updates. I'm like, Michael gave me updates if it goes sideways. I liked it. And this morning I was thinking like, oh yeah, whatever, they got the win in overtime. It was cool. I would like to see a dominant win. But as of right now, I'll take the outcome of the players that we brought in. So you brought in Jesse Bates to create defensive opportunities as far as turnovers or just, cut off a certain part of the field. He punched out a couple of balls last night. One was recovered by Tampa Bay, I think by Mike Evans. He punched out of Chris Godwin's hand. And then he punched the other one out of the running back. I keep forgetting his name. He's your guy. The running back for number 7.
Bucky Irvin.
Yeah. So he punched the
My
ball out of
guy.
his.
Yeah.
Even though Atlanta still gave the ball back, it changed the dynamic when he punched it out because he got it back and then went from the 4th and 15.
Definitely the momentum. Yeah.
Yeah, the momentum changed. I'm still I like Baker. I like the whole thing. I'm still upset about the delay of game penalty because Raheem Morris was correct because the ref was standing over the ball as if there was like
there was a holdup or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was standing over the ball. So when they threw the flag, I was reading. He was standing over the ball. Other way, Young Wei Koo still knocked it through the overtime play. I don't want to go out on a limb, but I'm picking them just because the 3 wins all require heroic performances at the end of the game from the quarterback. That shouldn't be a thing you rest on. I think the NFC South is looking better than we expected. I know preseason, if you pull any of these podcasts, especially these podcasts that are watching our show and taking our stuff, pissing my pocket and telling me it's raining.
Transitive property, huh?
Transitive property. Mike said it the other day. We got all these people on these podcasts. I know YouTube is sending it. Stop taking our shit without giving us credit. But I digress. So you watch all across all these podcasts, and I'm pretty sure the NFC East preseason was probably going to expect it to look better than the NFC South. And it's not shaped up that way. Granted, y'all
got Carolina, bro.
Carolina went into Vegas and got a nice little dub. Their record's the same as Cincinnati, and people got Cincinnati in the AFC Championship game.
Well, speaking of Cincinnati, I'm glad you brought that up. Perfect segue. Everywhere I look, just about, people are picking Cincinnati to beat Baltimore this weekend.
Based off of they got Baltimore's game plan.
No, I think what it is, and by the way, UNLV in the red zone for you sickos out there with me, 31-21 Syracuse with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. I think that people get used to the talking points, Joe Burrow always starts slow. Cincinnati always starts slow. So now it's, we're out of the early part. Now it's time for Cincinnati to wake up. So I think people are expecting Cincinnati to just galvanize and go on a run. But the problem is they aren't any good. So I'm picking the Ravens.
I'll take the Ravens.
I'm picking the Ravens. They averaging 220 yards on the ground. No one else in the NFL is averaging 170, more than 175.
Yeah, I'm picking the Ravens because what they
do well, Cincinnati can't stop.
I think running the ball, offensive line, controlling line of scrimmage is probably if I was ever a coach at any level, that would be the thing. You wouldn't even need a great quarterback if you can control line of scrimmage.
And we'll see you next week, Baltimore. And by we, I mean the Commodores, the Commanders, playing host to Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. Now, if this was 2-3 years ago, I would have said this is the week the Browns get right. Because if you remember last year, Deshaun Watson came back, from injury and beat us. And then Ron Rivera said, I didn't know this win was going to eliminate us from the playoffs because we had the tie. So, so as I look at this, there's that part of my brain that's like, this would be so Washington to lose this game to the Browns. Myles Garrett coming in, manhandling a rookie that runs way too much. But I think I'm gonna keep the Commodores. I'm gonna take the Commodores.
I've seen he took the one hit in preseason right in front of Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn was like, "Bro, I would have taken out of the game." Not only a disciplinary thing, but we good. I've seen enough. It's like when you gambling, we at the craps table, and the dude at the under the table got a bad attitude. I'm like, you know what? I've seen enough. Let me go get these chips up and go to another table. Like this guy's his vibe is off. I seen him take that hit. I'm like, yeah, you gotta go. But he's turning around. The funny thing is, I was thinking about this all week. As soon as I saw Cleveland versus Washington, it was like Washington has the quarterback that Cleveland thought they were getting. Like the dynamic guy with his legs, a lot like Lamar. Like it's not doesn't
Yeah, I was
seem
gonna
to
say
always
Cleveland's
be
upset
on.
because Washington's got Lamar. They got to play Lamar 3 times this year.
Yeah. So, and I'm gonna go Washington.
Okay.
I just like I said, you have the stats. I have the teamwork. I think they're just enjoying the game. It is a game.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about it very seriously. I'm drinking fermented potatoes and cranberry juice. We have a very serious conversation, but it's a game ultimately.
Well, let's disagree real quick.
Here we go.
Because I don't know why. I got the sneaky feeling.
Okay.
I had the feeling that the Metropolitans were going to win the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I got a weird feeling about the Jetropolitans going to London and beating on the Vikings, giving the Vikings their first L. I think that even though I can't stand Aaron Rodgers with almost all of my being, I trust that there's a game in there. Like these old time quarterbacks, when Tom Brady was old, he had that game in him, like one of them. He had one of them. And I think Brian Flores
is old. He still was throwing 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns.
But I think Brian Flores is going to blitz one time too many. I think that the Jets are going to get the running game going, and I got them pulling the upset.
If the Jets wide receivers drop passes in the first quarter, it's a wrap for the rest of the game. When you deployed to Qatar back in the day, did you stop in Europe or did you guys get straight through?
We went to Ramstein, yeah.
How long did you stay in Ramstein?
For a day.
For a day, did you guys go out and do anything?
Of course, we went to K-Town.
Went to K-Town, took some pictures and hung
out. Of course.
That's a short little trip, right? So you got a nice little trip. You with the group of people you like. You're like, oh, we got some downtime. Let's go take some pictures. Germany's nice. I think it was probably because you deployed around the same time I did, January-ish, 03.
Yeah.
So it was cold because I was stationed there. So it was nice and cold, but it's a very beautiful country. You guys all went out and hung out. I bet you the Jets players did not land in London and go out and enjoy London together in their downtime. I don't think they're as conjoined as they need to be late in the season. And like I said, if Garrett Wilson runs the wrong route, which is inevitable because, like I said, we had that overhead shot of the Tampa 2 look, or he gave a cover zero look, and then on the snap of the ball, everyone bailed out, and it was Tampa 2, which is cover zero is man to man. These guys are blitzing. It's all hot. I got to get the ball out, and then the ball gets snapped, and both safeties get deep. Guys get to the flats. It's so.
Are you taking notes, DJ Uyangale? You taking notes?
I guarantee you that the Jets early in the game will miss the Jets, or mainly Aaron Rodgers and wide receiver he believes should be open if he ran this route. It's gonna miss twice on the first drive, second drive, and they're going to be completely discombobulated for the rest of the game. And Minnesota's going to win.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this because I know somebody at ESPN got in trouble for it a couple of years ago, but I'm just going to roll with it. Saying the Vikings have been showing some chinks in their armor, from the standpoint of, we talked about the 49er game where they needed the Armageddon of turnovers and block punts, 97-yard touchdown passes to get out of there by 6 at home. Last week, against Jordan Love, they almost blew that game. They gave up the 29 points. Jordan Love led the Furious comeback. Green Bay missed 2 field goals, or else they would have lost that game.
Yes, and what do you need? What do you need from a quarterback to get players to believe you can come back? And does Aaron Rodgers have that trait?
I think Aaron Rodgers has
front runner trait.
He has credibility of He's a Super Bowl champion, even though that was many, many, many moons ago.
Those dudes were 7 years old when he got a
Hey,
Super
he
Bowl.
still can go like this, and they gotta respect it, regardless
No,
of how long ago it was.
they were
They gotta
7.
respect that. None of these dudes
That was
have
what year was
sniffed.
that?
It was
2010.
2010, I want to say, yeah.
Okay, so that's
None of these dudes have
14 years
sniffed it.
ago. Most of those guys that he's throwing the ball to were 7 and 9 years old at the time of that. Like Aaron Rod, I know I'll bang on Aaron Rodgers a lot. And I know like I said, we'll keep it.
I mean, I don't like him, so keep going. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll move on.
Yeah, like I said, I just think a bad route because you're going. I think he's going to see Brian Flores' defense and say, okay, you're not coming. I know what this look is. And he's going to look over at Lazard or Garrett Wilson with his sleeves looking like Sam Bradford and Mike Williams, who might be there, might be injured, who knows. And he's going to expect them to all do 3 different things where he can choose where I want to put the ball. And 2 of them aren't going to do it.
Well, it would help if he didn't get hit 14 times and sacked 5 like he did last week. So, that's a start too. But
I like it. I like how you go on the edge.
Panthers or Bears? I want to pick Carolina so bad, but I just can't do it.
I want to pick. They burned me last week.
Yeah, but the Bears have not given up 21.
Offense is butt though.
Hey, they came together last week. You know what I'm saying? But the Bears have not given up.
DJ Moore had like 3 catches for 27 yards, but
what's his name? DeAndre Swift led in receiving and rushing, but the Bears have not given up 21 points since week 11 last year. The Panthers are giving up a league worst 32.3 points per game.
I'll take Chicago.
All right. So then for the ugliest game of the week, you got one team averaging 11.3 points a game and have not held a lead at all this season. And you got another team averaging 13 points per game.
I know what it is.
So who you got?
I'll take New England.
Yeah, I'm going to take New England too. I'm taking New England too. But yeah, that is a real thing. In the last 2 weeks, Miami has been outscored 55-15.
They haven't had a lead all year, correct?
Correct. So Mr. Logical. UNLV. Oh, what do we got here? Is that a touchdown? What we got here? All right. So Ken, the Indianapolis Colts break the streak. They have not won in Jacksonville since 2014. Is this the year they get it done?
How is the hip?
We don't know. He's questionable, but Jonathan Taylor is out. Oh, it was a block punt. UNLV about to tie the game.
I'm going to take Jacksonville. I like Joe Flacco, but there's only so much dudes my age can do in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm taking Jacksonville as well. So then you got nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. They're coming off getting that ass smacked around my hometown this past Sunday, as I told Mr. Logical was going to happen.
True.
Got Von Miller suspended. Got more injuries. Can Buffalo go into Houston and get a win?
I'm betting whatever the over is on Nico Collins' touchdown, so I'll take Houston.
I was going to take Buffalo until I saw that Shakir and Ed Oliver are out. So once they were out, I was out.
You got a suspended defensive end. You got a suspended defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Favorite wide receiver underneath. Yeah, it's only so much Josh Allen can do.
And the game that only 2-5 cares about, I'm taking the Broncos to kick the Raiders' ass.
Yeah, the Raiders have nothing.
Okay.
I'm not a Sean Payton guy.
I thought we would disagree on that, but the Raiders have
the Raiders. I saw something, and I rarely comment on random Facebook posts, but some guy commented under the picture that Antonio Pierce or an intern or whoever runs the Raiders Instagram account liked the rumors about Davante playing his last game.
Yeah.
In Las Vegas. And the guy's comment was, "This is why you don't let the players pick the coach." And I was like, that's so on point. I just got to agree and not add anything to it.
Yeah. But also, real quick, I forgot to say, since 2020, Buffalo is 14-4 coming off of a loss. But the Raiders have won 8 straight against Denver. So for the most part, I kind of just threw it in the air and took whoever was the home team. But I got my eye on it because, is this because Davante Adams is out? Is this
Out
going
with
to
a
be?
hamstring.
Is this going to be the Brock Bowers game where he becomes Travis Kelce? So we'll see how that goes.
I mean, Denver's defense held the vaunted Jets offense to 9 points at home. And it's raining. I get it. But I live in Jersey. The rain wasn't that bad. Like people make it seem it was like I didn't even know it was raining until I put the game on. I'm like, it was raining? Like it wasn't like that bad. It
How
was
far are you
warm,
from East Rutherford?
like 50 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, we got the same weather. It's
All
50
right.
minutes because the last 12 miles is all traffic. That's it. It's super close. And it was like 65 degrees. It was warm, wet. It was like
warm and wet, just
pause.
how I like it.
I'm paused.
Yeah, you got to
Absolutely.
pause that one. So we got Green Bay going out to SoFi. Matt Stafford against a team that he's played against many times in his career. What do you got?
I keep picking the Rams, and I'm gonna stop. That's it. That's my only thing. I keep picking them. I keep thinking they're gonna because I was so bad on them and so down on them last year. I'm kind of giving them like pity picks, and it's like it's not helping me. It's not helping my pick ratio. So I'm going with Green Bay. Jordan Love coming off last week, a tougher defense, still putting up 29 points, even with the 3 picks, still getting 4 touchdowns. He's probably still kind of hobbled from his week 1 injury. I'm gonna go to Green Bay and Matt LaFleur with weapons.
Yeah, I'm going with them as well. They have forced 12 turnovers so far this year. Xavier McKinney leads the league in picks. The Rams are still piling up injuries. And, at this stage, this game is going to be welcome to the OK Corral. So I could see something along the lines of a 41-31 type game. I think we're both picking Seattle, no Malik Neighbors for the Giants. So, go ahead, give me the 12th man. We're probably both picking San Francisco over Arizona.
Oh, hold on there, player.
Oh, not so fast, my friend.
I had a couple people influence me.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to go with Arizona. A stat that I heard, shout out to Eric Mangini, first things first. Arizona's lost their games, but the team that they lost to, those teams won 12 games. So they're losing to good teams.
Right.
Kyler Murray's playing better than he has before.
Mm-hmm.
And him and Marvin Harrison's connected for 4 touchdowns last 3 games.
Yep. Buffalo, Washington, and Detroit for the losses.
I think Purdy, watching Kirk Cousins last night and then Baker Mayfield, I think the quarterbacks are in their groove a la like when they used to all play 4 preseason games.
Uh-huh.
When you had those 4 weeks, they played each one of those preseason games in some form or fashion, either a quarter, a half. I remember back in the day they play a full quarter week 1, they play a half probably week 2, they play a half and maybe a little into the 3rd quarter, and then the 4th week they sit out. That was like traditionally like the format for your starters, your quarterbacks.
Right. Who treats the 3rd game of preseason like it's bullshit? Bullshit!
Yeah, so now they've gotten these 4 games out of their way. Guys are throwing the ball crazy because we talked about the first couple of weeks. It was only like 39 touchdowns and it was 63 touchdowns. And I think the first 2 weeks, maybe 1 or 2 guys had over 300 yards passing. Last week we saw Justin Fields go over 300. So
somehow,
I think it's coming around. I think guys are filling out, and teams who have big weapons are figuring out how to get them the ball. Atlanta with Kyle Pitts, Drake London had 12 catches. I think teams are figuring it out.
We'll see if Arizona can reverse their fortune like the Falcons did, because coming into last night, the Falcons were 10 for 38 on 3rd down. They went 6 for 14 last night. The last 2 weeks, Arizona's defense has given up 15 of 24 3rd down opportunities, so maybe they can reverse that. Jordan Mason, 2nd in the NFL in rushing.
Yeah, I mean, at least you only have to worry about him.
Okay.
Christian McCaffrey's out here with Kevin
He
Durant's
done.
2019 Achilles.
Yeah. He done. Get him out of here. So I was very prepared. We had this discussion, this light argument last week. I was
Right.
prepared to come in here and say that Dallas is going to go into Pittsburgh and win. But then the injuries are piling up. No Micah Parsons potentially. Lawrence is out. Brandon Cooks is out. It just goes on and on and on. But the Steelers are down just as many offensive linemen as the Cowboys are down players. So you know what? Fine. I'll just pick the Cowboys anyway.
Cowboys on the road Sunday night.
No pressure.
TJ Watt playing.
He is.
Here we go.
All right. So yeah, we disagreed there. And then Monday night, I almost picked the Saints. I wanted to pick the Saints because Kansas City, just like I talk about the Texans, has not really played a complete game yet. So, but it's at Arrowhead. It's Monday Night Football. I'm gonna just roll with the champs.
You know what? As a friend of the show, like I said, Millville is an hour from here. Shout out Isaiah Pacheco. He continue healing. He's connected to a good friend of mine, like probably one of my best friends ever. And I always pick against him. And I'm like, I want to tell him, tell him to watch the show. But so often I pick against Kansas City. I pick against them the entire playoff run into the Super Bowl. I want to pick Kansas City just because it's at home. But Mahomes keeps making these throws.
Boneheaded plays.
Like, dog, he threw the game against Cincinnati. Okay, the Baltimore game, the Cincinnati game, the Atlanta game, and even in the Rams game. The pick he threw to Roquan Smith was not even he wasn't even trying to defend anyone. The ball just hit him in the chest. Cincinnati, they caught 3. One got called back for holding, but both of those were bad. It wasn't like the guy made a great play. The Atlanta one, Justin Simmons.
Well, there was the one.
The one-handed one, but the one-handed one is because he was underthrown. He was underneath of Worthy was over top, and he lobbed it, and he caught it here. The ball should have been 5 to 10 yards ahead of that because Worthy had him beat. The one in Atlanta, he threw Simmons came across, so it was like, okay, maybe he just didn't see him hiding over here, and then he came across.
Right.
But then in the Chargers game, he threw it right to him. So it's like, if he's gonna throw another pass right to a New Orleans guy, I just feel like he will.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take New Orleans reluctantly, but like I said, I think he's gonna throw him the ball. I think he's gonna throw New Orleans the ball one or too many times. It's just weird. Until they make a trade for a wide receiver, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay. So then, of course, we'll take it to the other side real quick. Saying not much to get to this week. Next week is the big week. Ohio State at Oregon, Penn State at USC, Texas and Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout. I'm not calling it that other thing. So we got some games, some matchups next week. So upset alert. It's that time. Upset alert. So
okay, here
we go. So upset alert.
Hold on, check it out. I'm actually going to make these bets as soon as you get off the phone. I know I shouldn't because I've been gambling. I've been winning. I keep my money myself.
All right, so let me define them again. So upset alert. I'm basically picking the other team. I'm picking the underdog to cover.
Okay.
Not win outright, but cover, even though they could. And then the upsets are the actual, this is going to happen. So
this is strictly to cover.
Yeah, this is strictly covering.
How many teams we got? How many games we got?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, I got a 6-leg parlay.
Mm-hmm. So give me Wake Forest covering against NC State.
Wake Forest.
Allow me to partially vomit in my mouth as I say the Gators to cover against UCF. Hashtag
Okay.
UC Facts.
So UCF that was favored by 15.5 over Colorado. What's the over under for? Or what they favored by against Florida?
2.5 at the Swamp.
Hold on, time out. Vegas had them as 15-point favorites over Colorado, and Colorado came in 3-1. But the same Vegas has them as 2.5-point favorites in Florida.
Mm-hmm. At the Swamp.
The Swamp where Utah beat them last year, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And where Miami smacked them around earlier, where A&M smacked them around earlier, yeah. Give me UMass, the Minutemen, to cover against Northern Illinois.
What we got there?
You know what I'm saying? Huh?
What's the spread? Or what's the
Last I saw it, it was 17.5. Let me pull it up real quick. And for those of you tracking out there, Oregon's up 24-0 at the end of the third quarter on Michigan State. UNLV and Syracuse are tied at 31 with 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Houston with the upset over TCU, 30-19. So yeah,
they must have watched the show. I was talking about because we were talking about how does Houston not have talent.
Yeah, say that we did have that conversation. I'll look for that, but then let me go to the next one real quick. I got Stanford covering 7.5 against Mr. Logical's beloved Hokies. And, said, don't be shocked if we get an outright upset in that one out on the farm. That's what they call their stadium out there, the farm. The UMass Northern Illinois is 16.
Okay.
Florida and UCF is down to 1.5 now. And then finally, I'm sorry, I got two more. I'm sorry. Then we got Texas Tech covering 6.5 against Arizona. Out in the desert, out in Tucson. And then finally, look ahead spot, Minnesota covering 8 against USC. So those are the upset alerts. Then for the actual upsets, I'm taking Missouri over Texas A&M. Everybody's left Missouri for dead because they had tough games against Boston College and Vanderbilt, as if teams can improve, as if, they were like the Vanderbilt game.
Missouri is an underdog to A&M?
Yes.
How?
It's at A&M. So, like how.
Missouri's undefeated, right?
Yeah, Missouri's undefeated. Yep. But everybody's giving up on Missouri. It's too early for that. Give me Boston College over Mr. Logical's non-beloved UVA.
Yeah, my pops is a VA fan.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to take BC. It's only a 1-point spread, but I'm going to take BC. Give me Kansas over Arizona State. And then finally, Appalachian State over Marshall. So those are your upsets for the week. Just a few games to point out. We're not really going to get deep into them just because of time purposes. But Mr. Logical, I am excited to see the Iowa Hawkeyes traveling to Columbus. 18-point underdogs, by the way. Here's one for you. We always talk about Iowa's offense. So Their running back, Caleb Johnson, 6'2", 225. He makes up 45% of Iowa's yardage this season.
Yeah, he's an NFL-sized running back. I'd actually give him the ball all the time.
College game day. Do you know where college game day is tomorrow?
Non-SEC?
Non-SEC.
FBS?
FBS.
Somewhere in the Big Ten.
No. It is for the big, monumental ACC matchup.
Oh, God.
Between the Miami Hurricanes and the California Golden Bears. So college game day.
Oh, convicts versus
the woke versus Coke. It's the first time Cal has ever had college game day. They are a 10.5-point underdog to Miami. So, but I also saw that if you
in
take
Miami or is
no, it's in Cal in Berkeley.
they better bring Aaron Rodgers, Marshawn Lynch, Jared
Well,
Goff.
Marshawn Lynch is the guest picker on game day tomorrow. But if you combine the mileage, because Miami's going to Cal, Virginia Tech's going to Stanford, UCLA is coming to Happy Valley. Combine them all up, you got over 14,000 miles, and these are conference games. Whew. Couldn't be me though. Then you got Georgia coming off of the upset. They lost to Bama last week. What are they going to look like? Well, they better get it together quick because they are playing in the Deep South's oldest rivalry against the Auburn Tigers. And I know, like, before we laugh, Georgia's a 24.5-point favorite in this game.
Really?
Last year, they were a favorite around about the same, and Auburn took them to about 5 minutes left in that game in a 7-point loss. So I don't know. Georgia keeps getting off to these slow starts. So at the very least, I got my eye on an Auburn cover. But then the last game I wanted to touch on real quick is we got a national title rematch.
From what year?
For this year. Saying we got the Michigan Wolverines traveling to Seattle to play the Washington Huskies. Washington, 2.5-point favorite at home. I don't know.
Orgy playing?
I don't know. Orgy is playing. He threw for 86 yards last week.
So we're looking at 160 this week, right?
Maybe. Washington has the 4th leading rusher in the Big Ten, Jonah Coleman. This is, I got my eye on this, Michigan's first road game of the season. So keep your eye on that. And they're going to a tough environment, new head coach, new quarterback that wasn't the starter at the beginning of the season. Washington top 20 in offensive and defensive yards per game, even though they have 2 losses. So just keep that in your back pocket. I might be picking Washington. Keep that in your back pocket. And also, by the way, Clemson, first true road game in Tallahassee tomorrow. So real quick. I never thought I would see the day that UCF would be favored in the swamp. Keep your eye on Arkansas hosting Tennessee. Tennessee looked a little shaky at OU a couple of weeks ago, and they got the next 2 weeks. Tennessee's got Florida and Bama. So, possible.
And they look shaky with a smaller mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
Got to worry about this guy, Jalen Green's like 6'3", 225.
Yeah. So keep your eye on that. Arkansas has shown that they can go toe-to-toe with better teams. They went toe-to-toe with Oklahoma State, should have won that game, should have beat A&M last week. Problem, though, because you're going up against Nico. Arkansas gives up an average of 7.2 yards after the catch. So,
got to make tackles in
open
space.
But that environment in Vietnam, as I like to call it, it's going to be crazy. Ask Texas about it. Ask LSU about it. Florida State, I mentioned them playing Clemson tomorrow. DJ out, finger injury, Brock Glenn in. Florida State is 131st of 133 teams in rushing. They have only scored 20 once this season. So, Clemson favored by 14.5, by the way. Ohio State, right? Their last non-Michigan Big Ten loss was 2018.
Like Purdue or somebody?
Yep, it was actually Purdue, yes. Ches Malusi leaving Wisconsin, their leading rusher. They play Purdue tomorrow. Keep your eye on that. Wisconsin favored by 10. And then, I have to say it, get the pause ready, because they tell me that this time of year down in Columbia, South Carolina, is known as Cocktober. You know what I'm saying? And they got Ole Miss coming in off of that loss to Kentucky last week. Ole Miss is favored by 9 in this game at South Carolina. But this is the beginning of Cocktober.
I'm out. See you later, ladies and gentlemen. We out.
So we'll hit the Jimbo thing on Monday. So let's get over to the NBA just for time purposes. All right, so we were going to talk about it. NBA preseason started today. You had the Nuggets against the Celtics. Russell Westbrook looked like he was fitting in just fine. I know people had questions about that, but we wanted to talk about the Eastern Conference and just some thoughts on teams, maybe a little mini preview. So I'm gonna just go on and cut the suspense. And Boston's still going to win the East.
Yeah, I wrote down Boston versus everybody.
Yeah, Boston versus I like that. I like that. I like that. But I had some thoughts on some other teams. The 76ers, Joel Embiid talked about how he's down 25 pounds. And the only question that I have for Joel Embiid is, yeah, you lost all that weight, but did you gain any heart? So
I like Joel Embiid. I just think that by the time it gets around to that crunch time playoff window, it just physically you just can't do it. If you think about the NBA season right now, we're in October, early October. They're gonna play some preseason games. I think the regular season ramps up sometime around Halloween, maybe early November. It's always like pretty
October
close.
22nd is opening night.
Okay, so now you got to get any team. You got to get your team and your superstar from October to April before the time of the year that people actually focus on counts. And then B, you're dealing with injuries, hitting, falling, flopping, getting hit in the head, getting pushed,
Right.
whatever happens to you. So if he is really playing, because I know the number I was hearing a lot was he was 7 feet tall, 285. So if he's 7 feet tall, playing at 260, because he was beating it like we talked about in our pre-show. He put up 50 on the Knicks with one bad leg, and I'm like, why you not double teaming a dude that can't move left and right? So if he's really playing at a healthy 260, I just have to see how the Maxey George Embiid works, because we talked about this
I
the
don't
other
like it.
day. As far as like, if you're gonna have a big three like that, that big three has to essentially guarantee you 65 to 70 points, because the depth you have and the fact that those three guys have to take that many shots. Because people talked about the Miami big three, but Chris Bosh kind of volunteered to take less shots just by default because LeBron and D Wade were going to take more. Ray Allen took more threes and less dribbling of the ball because KG and Paul Pierce and the Boston Three Party, they were getting more shots. So we've seen it not work if a team has three guys who really need the ball. But if you can get 65 to 70 points out of these guys,
I just think they got too much. And and I know that's weird to say, because they have Embiid, they have Paul George, they have Maxey, but then in the offseason, they went out and got Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson. They still have Kelly Oubre. They went and got Andre Drummond. You drafted Jared McCain at 16 or 17. You got Adam Bona that you drafted in the second round that, they went and got Caleb Martin. So I just feel like there's too much, from the standpoint of, like, to your point, that there's not available shots. Like these guys like Eric Gordon, Martin, these are guys that don't need 15 shots or whatever, but at the same time, like they're free flowing shooters.
if you play fast, then I think what they have works, because
But they have so many players that you got to worry about injuries. And they got Kyle Lowry, old ass too. So you got Kyle Lowry, Joel Embiid, Paul George.
Just old. He don't get hurt. He's just old.
Paul George. Well, you got Paul George, Embiid, and Eric Gordon, who are known to miss significant time.
Yeah, whatever you don't get from Eric Gordon, you just get from Maxey. The problem is, are you going to be in the boat? Who was it? Was it Paul George or was it Brooklyn, where you had a big three and two guys were just injured for long, like their injuries overlap? I think it happened in LA, and I believe it happened in Brooklyn, like after Kevin Durant came back from injury. Not the year he missed for the Achilles, because we knew that was going to be the case.
Well, yeah. Well, even in that playoff series, they lost Kyrie and Harden in the same series.
Yeah, so throughout that year, they didn't play a lot of games together.
Right.
That's the only piece because I don't know how well Embiid works with other superstars. I think he worked great with Maxey
So I
because him
do
and
like
Maxey don't take away from what each other does.
touchdown UNLV. So I do like Paul George to the Sixers from the standpoint of it allows Maxey to be more free flowing if Paul George is going to assume that point forward role, but he's also older as well. You
Is
know
he
what I
going to
mean?
be Philly's Chris Bosh? One of
Right.
them's got to be it.
And I think he has to
I don't
be.
think
I
it's
think he has
Maxey
to be
because
because
Maxey's
he's the newcomer, so he has to be. And saying like I think that having Paul George as your number 3 is the best situation in the NBA. But the problem is that I think like when I look at the Knicks, I think their pieces just fit better and complement each other better. So, you got Jalen Brunson, obviously, but then, they got Adenobi, they brought in Mikal Bridges. So you have your wing defenders, that are going to match up with Tatum and Brown. You brought in Karl Anthony Towns to stretch the floor a little bit. You have Deuce McBride coming off the bench. You went and got Landry Shamet, so more shooting off the bench.
the Knicks. The thing with yes, Sam, but
But they still have too many. They have too much too.
the Knicks could go 57-25, and you still wouldn't believe them in the playoffs.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
But
and
I, but I
that's the
just but I
problem
think
with
I like
That's
their
the problem with
roster.
Tibbs and then because they'll. I think the Knicks will go multiple times throughout this year. 82 game schedule. They'll have clips where they are like 13-3 in their last 16 games, but they're going to be Charlotte. They're going to be Orlando. They're going to be
Washington.
Washington. They're going to beat Cleveland on an off
Well, I
night.
like
They're
the
going to beat. They're going to
Sixers.
beat one of these West Coast teams that rest their guy when they go west. They'll go 5. They'll win 5 out of 6 on a West Coast trip because they're just going to overwhelm a team.
Well, I
And
like the
then when he
Sixers
gets to
from
the
1 to
playoffs, he'll be
3.
like, yeah,
I like I
only
like the
person.
Six. I like the Sixers from 1 to 3 versus the Knicks. But I like the Knicks after that everywhere else. So like I like Embiid over Towns. I like Maxey over Brunson to some degree, and I like Paul George over I don't know Mikal Bridges maybe instead of Adenobi, one of the two. But I like Paul George better than either one of them. But then after that, I want the Knicks.
Yeah, but when you said that is very interesting. But it's like I think the New York Knicks 3 that you named off. I think Mikal Bridges will make sure that Jalen or Cat gets their shot.
Uh-huh.
Whereas I
Philly
don't know if
won't.
Paul George and Maxey and Embiid are gonna play this triangle offense between the three of
Well, I
them.
think Paul George. I think Paul George is willing to, or like should be willing to, I should say. Maxi, I think, is the problem
What was
because he's
his?
the new.
I'm gonna look up and see what his deal was.
Well, I
Let's.
think Maxi is the problem because he's the young gunner that just got paid. That's trying to because there were times where people were like, should Philly trade Embiid? And now it's Maxi's team. So I don't know how much of that Maxi actually feels, but I imagine he just got paid and he wants to continue to develop. So how about this? Everybody talks about Travis Hunter. Look at my guy Ricky White. We brought him up from UNLV the other day. 10 catches, 135 yards, touchdown, and a blocked punt. How about that? But yeah.
Let's know Travis Hunter, the Heisman front runner.
So when I look at it, that's my question: is does Philly have too many mouths to feed? Because like I think these Knicks players, Adenobi and Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, they're willing to do some dirty work, play some defense, stand in the corner and shoot a three. You got Deuce McBride and Shamet coming off the bench. They know their roles are to come in the game and get open shots. But when you look at Philly, Kelly Oubre still wants to be involved. Caleb
I think
Martin.
Kelly Oubre is like I'm flack better. I think he's like the perfect role player because I think he had his opportunities to be that guy when he got drafted. I remember he was wearing like some red Wizard of Oz looking shoes. He was a cool cat. He was one of the first guys that I noticed that was like on that big hair, with the suit and everything else. And I think he's been like a perfect role player. as we talk about Philly, this is something that has picked up. Maxey and Paul George, between the two of them, are getting paid $414 million, $415 million. You know, Maxey's getting 40 million a year. Paul George is getting 52. So if I'm paying two guys 92 million, I even look up Embiid's contract. But whatever Embiid's contract is, week in and week out, game in and game out, he lives up to whatever that number is. These two guys, that's gonna be my issue. Is that
5 years,
one guy just got
147.
for Embiid?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Embiid's giving you 33 and a half points. Rebounds, he defends well, he's a big body. He's gonna get the other team's big man in foul trouble. He's gonna get the other team's big forward that tries
Actually,
to
hold on.
switch on him
Sorry.
and in trouble.
3 years, 192 is what kicks in though after. So right now he's on a 4-year, 213. And then in 26, it goes 3 years, 192.
Yeah. So you got over $500 million going to three guys. One guy just signed his in Paul George. He can't come in there on some I'm gonna be a $50 million role player.
Right. And two of them are hurt all the time, Embiid and Paul George.
So
that's what I'm saying. So I just don't like
the
Philly
ultimate
from that
Philly's
standpoint.
like riding a roller coaster, and the over the shoulder harness is locked, but the lap thing is kind of like fraud.
Yeah, and
like,
I'm out on Milwaukee
good.
too.
I think I'm good. I think I can like sit here, but it's like this part is moving way too much for me. So if I make it to the end of the roller coaster and they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, it was a great ride. But if halfway through this roller coaster, your feet end up on top of this thing that's supposed to hold your legs down, then you that's what you signed up for when you are rooting for the Phillies. That's
and I'm out on Milwaukee too, because the thing I do like about Milwaukee, one of the few things I like about Milwaukee is continuity. Like their three have been together, Giannis, Brook Lopez, and Middleton. They've been together.
We're excluding Dame from that.
Well, no, hold on. I'm getting there. Saying they won a championship together. They've been together throughout the years. So they have a certain relationship and continuity on the court that I think goes a long way, even though they may not be as dynamic as the other teams that we just talked about. Now you add Dame to that, who was supposed to be the star that put you back over the top. He started off slow last year, lonely in Milwaukee. We got the reports about how him and Giannis weren't able to work out together this summer, which is like, okay, I just can't fathom the excuse that you have for y'all not to get together this summer. But then when I look at it, Brook Lopez is another year older, so he's 36 now. You got Middleton, who's injured now, and he's like the basketball Keenan Allen right now. So Giannis,
he get injured sneezing.
Yeah, Giannis, coming off that Soleus, Dame had that injury before as well. So Milwaukee made some very sneaky moves that I like from the standpoint of they didn't add anything to compare with Philly and New York, which they might not have had to because you got Giannis, who might be the best player.
Yeah, you got
right. But they went out and got DeLon Wright. They went out and got Gary Trent Jr. So those are upgrades over Malik Beasley and Patrick Beverly. Maybe my guy Andre Jackson gets some time this year. Jay Crowder's gone. So they brought in Taurean Prince. So like nothing that's going to move the needle per se, but reliable guys. That can hit.
They can sit in third in the East. We talked about the dynamics of relationship when they fired Adrian Griffin last year and they brought in Doc Rivers. Didn't seem like it made a lot of sense. But if the players are out on you, the players are out on you. There's only so much you can do.
Yeah, 17-19 record with Doc Rivers, by the way.
Dame, and he talked about in this article in Fox Sports. He was like, last year was like the toughest year of his life. He was going through his divorce. So you had like a lot of stuff going on. And people are like, just a divorce should be all right. But it's like, that weighs on you. It weighs on you a lot. And then you have this expectation because Dame is a perennial all-star. He's regarded as the second or third best shooter in the NBA, one of the best scorers. He put up over 70 points. Undersized guy, but always gets it done. And he played in a small market. I know I'm not a big market guy, but Portland wasn't really being, propped up there as one of these markets that we should all pay attention to. So when he left there to go to Milwaukee, a team with championship aspirations, it was tough. And I think it was a tough expectation. I think they could be one of those teams that could still end up being third or fourth, probably behind Cleveland. So you go, if we keep it generic, you go Boston, New York, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Orlando is in the mix. But it's like I said, with the NBA, it seems like because you get the top draft pick, you're good to go, and it squares your way for like the next coming years. Like in football, where you're the worst team, you get the first pick, and kind of turn you around. The NBA doesn't have that same kind of impact.
Well, I want to know how many times Orlando is going to score 95 points this year. As far as they go,
28.
As far as they go, this is the 3-point league now. So Orlando last in 3-pointers made, second to last in 3-point attempts, 24th in 3-point percentage. And they went out and got KCP, which was a great move.
They weren't shooting them.
Yeah.
They weren't shooting them well, and they didn't shoot a lot of them.
Yeah, and they went out and got KCP, which was an awesome move, especially for a young team, bringing in championship experience, some mentor.
3 from 3.
Yeah, he'll do some mentoring of my guy, Jalen Suggs. But I was hopeful that Orlando would make a front court move as well. They're running it back with Wendell Carter. Banchero's going to take another step forward. I have very high hopes for him. But I also wonder if Banchero has already peaked, or wherever he goes this year, is this going to be the end of the peak? Mo Wagner not Mo Wagner, Franz Wagner, the brother, needs to step it up. They both disappeared. Both Wagners disappeared in the playoffs last year. So I'm not as high on Orlando as a lot of other people that I've been hearing.
And the problem with Orlando, and I talked about this the other day, teams get a certain level of success, i.e. like when Minnesota did. They made it to the Western Conference Finals. They had, opportunities to really I think they could have won that series against Dallas. A turnover here, a turnover there late in the game, an 8-point lead cut to 1, then a bad turnover. So little things can happen if you just kind of clean up. Orlando might be one of those teams where they're going to have medium success this year, and they're going to start purging. Guys like Jalen Suggs are going to be gone.
I was shocked they didn't bring back Markelle Fultz.
Anthony. They're going to make these moves under the guise and this expectation that we've arrived. The East is weak because essentially only team that's solid that you can look at realistically is Boston as a contender. Like this team is probably going to win the East. And then you have Cleveland because they have stability in it and they have dynamic playmakers that played together for a couple of years. I was going to bring up
Cleveland because now they have a new head coach. BJ Biggerstaff is out in Detroit now. So they bring in Kenny Atkinson, who I like a lot, especially
good smart coach.
Coaching young players.
He's a top 3 in the East coach.
The problem that I have with Cleveland is they didn't solve some of the problems that I thought they had. For example, I just don't believe in the fit of Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I just don't think they mesh very well together.
Why can't it be like the Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert?
Because for one, they don't give Mobley the ball enough. Mobley has
a Mobley thing. I don't think
it might be, but also it's hard to get the ball when you got Donovan Mitchell out here jacking 35 shots, and then you got Garland. If he get 35, I get 25. So it's hard to, and that's where coaching, I guess, comes in. So
you got to put him in the Miami Heat tape.
And then they're still relying on Karis LeVert.
12, put on the Miami Heat DVD. I'm pretty sure it's out there on YouTube, the highlight reel, and say, hey, Cleveland, this is what you can do. Mobley, you're the new Chris Bosh. Maybe not threes, but you're waiting on
him.
You waiting on these two guys to get you the ball.
Well, I think that they're still going to be relying on Karis LeVert for big minutes off the bench. I think they could have upgraded there. They could have upgraded Isaac Okoro, who just signed last week. How's that for Woj's last bomb? Like Isaac Okoro is your last tweet, but anyway, when you look at it that way, I think Cleveland missed an opportunity. And I think that once we get to the All-Star break, we're going to have those same conversations of, can Garland and Mitchell coexist? Like, is this
that conversation was very strange to me, just simply because we've seen, like they mentioned it again, we've seen Paul Pierce and Ray Allen work. We thought we were going to see T Mac and Vince Carter work, but they didn't want to be Pippen.
But that's a very big difference, though. Ray Allen is what, 6'6"? Paul Pierce about 6'7".
6'7", 6'8".
So
defensively, yeah.
Yeah. But when you look at these two, Mitchell's at best 6'3", and Garland might be shorter than that.
But if you could put the pressure on them offensively, as long as he understands it as joint, we're gonna come with a two-headed attack from the wing, being Garland and Donovan Mitchell. It just, some people just got to understand their role, and that role might not be, you're not going to be a 21 and 10 guy. You might be a 17 and 12 guy,
and that's why I was hoping that this is.
I need you to Kevin Love this situation, and I need you to play. I need you to do that so we can beat Boston.
And that's why I was hoping that this was a matter of roles just not being defined. Like maybe Biggerstaff just didn't have the command in that way. And we'll see. Atkinson is coming in from the Golden State staff. So, we'll see if there's a certain level of cred that he walks in there with. We'll see.
Honestly, it probably comes down to contracts. It's like I need certain benchmarks to negotiate my contracts. Because I don't know if Paul George gets for sure. I don't know if he gets 4 years, $211 million if he's averaging 12 points and helping the Clippers win 45 games, 50 games next year.
Right.
So you need that kind of, you need something to say
touchdown Syracuse. Yeah.
Because Donovan Mitchell already had his deal.
And then you got we went all this time and we didn't even talk about the second team that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year.
Indiana got to play some defense.
Hey, I like it. This is going to be a full season with Siakam. Remember he was a trade deadline trade, or a little bit before the trade deadline. Correct. So I like the fact that they're going to have a full season with him and Halliburton together. Hopefully Halliburton is charged up about not playing at the Olympics, and he's coming back to.
My man was having a ball of a time at the Olympics.
They're going to get my guy Benedict Mathurin back. If he's
in that, better than LeBron.
Yeah, but if he was in that Eastern Conference Final, maybe they get a game or two off of Boston. They took those games to the wire even without Halliburton. So we got Syracuse and UNLV over at Allegiant tied at 38 with 23 seconds left. But I think Indiana is not out of here. Like, I don't think Indiana is going to fall back to their rightful place of 7th or 8th place.
Most of these teams should be looking at it like this. Boston's probably going to run off 62 to 64 wins. So 62 and 20, 64 and 18, somewhere in that range. But they're going to have tendencies that you can map out. Jason Tatum's shot decision and shot making.
Oh, hey, you didn't see the videos, huh?
I saw the videos. His shot looks exactly the same. Like, I watched it, and I was watching the video, and I saw like some YouTuber made like a parody and a meme of his shot even before then, and it's like, yeah, it looks exactly the same. It looks too aggressive and too robotic, but slightly unnecessary. But I think.
Do you think that there's tension in the Boston locker room?
Nah, they just want to chip.
I know, but we had the whole Jaylen Brown Olympics thing.
Jaylen Brown's a smart guy, and I think Jaylen Brown's beef is with the establishment.
You don't think
I
Tatum
think
tries to press too hard to get the MVP/Finals MVP he thinks that he's owed?
no, I would think that if they didn't grind so hard, if they had gone through so many trials and tribulations and made an NBA Finals to the point where you lose an NBA Finals to Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors 2 years ago, and then you're a rolled ankle away from the greatest comeback in NBA or even sports playoff history, and then you get over the hump. I don't think you go through all of that over a 24-month window just to revert back to jealousy during the summer at the
Okay,
Olympics.
fair enough, fair enough. So yeah, I like Indiana. I think I'm out on Miami. I'm done with the ride.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
So this year is either going to be a renaissance or it's going to be a collapse. Is
Or
Jimmy
they're
Butler
gonna
going to
find
take the
a
regular?
fucking diamond in the rough and go 50-32 and be
Yeah,
like,
is
how the
Jimmy
hell they
Butler going to
force
take the regular season seriously? Because just because you can be the 8th seed, get into play in, and get to the finals doesn't mean that should be the path that you aim for.
And it's probably maybe it's a part of it because they're Miami and they're always box office, so they can take nights off.
Tyler
You,
Hero, they're waiting for him to take a step that he doesn't have.
yeah, not unless you can put like 12 to 18 more pounds on. Like he's not a threat. He's
He's,
not a viable threat for what you want him to do. If you wanted him to play the Austin Reeves role, got it. You
well,
want him to play the Duncan Robinson role, got it. But you want him to be Ja Morant, it can't
I
happen
do
the way
like
he's built.
I do like Khalil Ware, the rookie that they drafted. Allows Bam to slide over out of the 5 a little bit more. So I like that where Bam isn't going to be matched up with your Jokic's and your Embiids and all that kind of stuff. So that
Yeah,
should help. But I
yeah.
think
I like Miami. I like Miami. They're gonna be well coached.
and they got
Very similar to the Knicks.
Terry Rozier, not Teddy Rozier. They
But
got
Terry Rozier was last, and I thought he was going to have an impact.
well, he got hurt
In
last year, so he didn't
even
even.
in his games that he played, it just didn't feel like it didn't feel as if they brought in a guy that was automatic. Because in Charlotte, I remember, or even back to Boston, he had that let he was a backpack guy. Get in my backpack, I got you. But just as the time went on, he went to different teams. Those teams had just better looking players. LaMelo Ball is a better offensive cog in your machine than Terry Rozier. They probably should have moved him a long time ago. But when he got to Miami, I think Miami has their way, and I don't know if they change it unless you're
What?
just
Well,
unless you're Ja Morant.
I think he only played like 4 to 6 games, and then he got hurt.
I think he
So
played a little bit more than that, but we'll double
yeah,
check.
yeah. Here's a list of teams, and I want you to tell me which one of these teams, if any, can make a run to the playoffs. Pistons, Bulls, Wizards, Hornets, Hawks, Raptors, Nets.
Nuggets.
Did I say Nuggets?
No, you didn't. That's what I'm saying.
Oh! I was about to say, did I screw that up?
I don't like what the Nets did ever.
Yeah, I think
I
they're
don't
going to
like.
be the worst team in the league.
I haven't liked any of their moves to include signing Kyrie and KD.
Uh-huh.
I didn't like signing both of them, and if I did, it might have been washed away so quick once KD got healthy and they went after James Harden. So I can't recall if I liked that move initially because Kevin Durant wasn't playing. But as soon as they started playing and they traded all those assets to get James Harden, I've been basically out on every single move they made since. And I'm probably not. I'm probably in the majority. I can't think of a move that they made. And you said Charlotte.
Yeah,
I don't know if the patience is there.
I'll get back to Charlotte in a second. Do you think Josh Giddey is going to be entrusted with the Luka role?
Where?
in Chicago. Because you remember that was the trade for Alex Caruso.
Caruso goes to OKC. Chicago's just not a serious team. I think
Yeah,
they're living up the legacy that all the Jordans have their team colors on them when they get released.
yeah. Zach
They
Levine's back
Zach Levine should have been traded
5 years ago.
when Trump was still president.
They finally they still have Patrick Williams, who I'm still waiting to break out, and it ain't gonna happen, I guess. Kobe White, is there. So, you got him. They drafted Buzelis.
Yo, if he don't get a fade,
We like Buzelis.
I like Buzelis, and what I like, I think Chicago's going to turn into Detroit and Houston. It's going to be
Okay.
one of those teams that just they have young talent. They're going to get it. They're going to try to get an old head in. It's not going to work. They're going to trade them for young talent. Very similar. Houston
Well,
drafted their young talent and try to bring in these old heads like Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet. I know we're not talking about the West, but I just think that Chicago, Detroit, it's you don't marry your talent to the coach. It's like it just doesn't work, and it's confusing
yeah,
because those guys are all like dynamic, 6'7" to 6'9" that can handle the ball. Scores in college. Cade Cunningham was a 6'8" point guard.
Well, the problem is, and I was going to bring this up too. Houston, I think, is caught up in, are we younger or are we old? Like, you can't be both. Like, are we,
Right.
are we trying to build, or, so for example, they have Şengün. I know we're not talking about the West, so I'll say this real quick. They got Şengün, but then you got Jabari Smith as well, who had to play 5 while he was injured. You still got Jalen Green, Van Vliet, but then you drafted Amen Thompson. You brought in Dylan Brooks, but then you got Cam Whitmore. So there's just, then you drafted Reed Shepherd this year. So there's just like a lot of talent that can all
redundancy of inadequacies.
Yes, they can all get you 20 points. You know what I mean? But somebody has to not
go 7 for 20.
Yeah, somebody has to not get you 20 points though. But in Detroit, it's the reverse. You have all this young talent who
none of them get you 20.
Individually, they look great. Like Cade Cunningham looks like he should be an all-star at some point. Jaden Ivey has talent. Jalen Duren has talent. They I don't know why they went out and got Tobias Harris. I don't know why they went out and got Tim Hardaway. But they also brought in Ron Holland.
Like I said, they're doing a Houston thing.
They're doing the Houston thing, but Houston is doing it.
It's just like you don't just go for pick a lane and stay in it.
But I think Houston is doing it right from the standpoint of Houston has people they can move. So you could play these games, and somebody might want Jalen Green, somebody might want Van Vliet.
But the problem with Houston, but the problem with talking about the West, Houston has guys that are playing themselves into position to negotiate long-term contracts, while simultaneously signing guys that aren't better than the guys that are in a position to negotiate contracts.
Right.
Detroit did that same thing by bringing in Hardaway and Tobias Harris. It's like, who are you cutting off? Like, what team? So if I'm making any kind of moves as a GM or coach or owner, whoever, and I'm in the East and I'm 10th, 12th, 13th every year, and I'm making moves and I'm bringing in veterans, does this veteran get me to 7, to 6? I think maybe if you're looking at like Paul George, if you're Detroit, if I get Paul George here, can I pair him with Cade Cunningham, who basically like the same size guy, 6'8", 6'9", handles the ball? Can I do that? Because like Tim Hardaway isn't going to teach anything to your guys you currently have there.
Yeah, this is this ain't NBA 2K where you can be like, I want to give Ron Holland Tim Hardaway's shooting badge.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, you're just stuck, and you're going to be like Houston North, where you have some old guys who've gotten money who are going to play. Because if I'm an owner, I'm looking at the bench. It's like, okay, there's 15 dudes down there. 3 of them aren't dressed. 12 of them are. I'm paying that guy 40. That guy's 44. This guy's getting 12. This guy's getting 8. Why is the $8 million guy out there putting up 20 shots and the guy I'm giving $40 million to is sitting down here with his warm-up suit on?
Right. And Oregon pulls off the 31-10 win. Syracuse possession in overtime down 3. So yeah, I was looking at it, and so when I look at it, like, I think Ron Holland has potential to be a star. He's only 19 and he still can't shoot, but he has
right
the athletic ability. He has all of that. But the problem is that you just drafted.
I've heard guys who can't shoot. They've all.
But the problem is that you drafted Asar Thompson last year, who is basically a less explosive Ron Holland. And then you got Jalen Duren that I brought up, but you still have Isaiah Stewart as well, who you're trying to turn into a stretch 4, and he's barely shooting over 30% from 3.
Who's the guy that Phoenix drafted? Joshua Jackson out of Kansas back in the day. And
that's a good comparison, actually.
I think he went like 4th overall.
Yeah, that's a good comparison to Ron Holland, I think.
Jay Billis's first critique of him was like, he's a shooter. Needs to work on his jump shot. Where is he now? Probably Israel. Probably China.
Probably. So Detroit has nothing but talent, but it just doesn't mesh. They brought in BJ Bickerstaff, so we'll see what he does. I don't think Washington will be as bad. I just don't think they'll be good. Same thing that you were talking about. They probably should have traded Kuzma last year, but maybe like now that, time has passed, maybe there's some patience involved and now you can get a better deal for him. But I don't expect the Wizards to be in the playoff hunt or in the play-in hunt. But Atlanta is the team that I'm confused about.
Atlanta's going to be 38-54.
So the normal, because they got rid of, or I shouldn't say got rid of. That sounds so bad. They traded DeJounte Murray for Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr., some picks. So they bring defense in that they didn't have. Maybe now Jalen Johnson.
Larry Nance gives you nothing offensively, so
no, he doesn't. But you have Jalen Johnson for that. I've been waiting on DeAndre Hunter for who knows how many years to look like Kawhi, and it's just not happening. So it ain't in there. It ain't going to happen. So Atlanta, I think, will still make the play-in. The
NBA is going to have to come up with new rules to help these teams that are consistently 11 through 15 in the conference. They're going to have to come up with new draft rules, maybe give them more picks, maybe allow them to carry 16 to 18 players versus the 15, because the way it's currently constructed, guys are only going to big markets when they get their deals as far as free agents. And then these small market teams owners are looking at whatever the bottom line is, and they're willing to move guys. DeJounte Murray should have never gone to the Hawks. The Hawks should have never been in that conversation. Because it's simple. Something simple is like, what are you going to do with Trae Young and DeJounte Murray? And it never figured out. Neither one of them played any defense. Neither one of them are big enough to guard anybody else. Neither one of them were offensively dynamic enough to cause any pressure on it. Like, Trae Young can shoot, but he can't dribble, drive, and finish in the lane because he's so small.
Yeah, so I expect him to average.
He's not like Dame Lillard. Like, Dame is a stocky guy, thick guy. He can finish in the lane.
I'm expecting 28 and 11 from Trae this year. I don't know what the percentages will look like, but he'll get the points.
So I
think the last play-in spot is going to come down to Charlotte and Toronto. I think that Charlotte is one more player away, and I don't mean like, hey, they get a player and all of a sudden they're a contender. I just mean, hey, maybe they get one more player and they could be a 7 seed, 6 seed. Because when I look at them, I like the talent that they have, that they're building. They just don't have a lot of it. So, LaMelo Ball, this guy misses so much time. He's only played over 50 games once in his career. Brandon Miller came in, surprised us.
So you got Charlotte's potential playoff team
play in as like the very last seed, because like you always say, 66% of the damn teams make the playoffs.
Oh yeah, damn near everybody make the playoffs,
but not because they're good.
They're projected to go 22-60 per the Bleacher Report.
You got Miles Bridges back. I like Keontae Johnson. he was a rookie last year. They got my guy KJ Simpson. I'm not sure. He'll probably be in the G League. They picked up Grant Williams late last year. They got Seth Curry still, and they picked up Josh Green from Dallas in the offseason. So I think
if I'm looking at the Hornets, I look at it like this. I break down the season of quarters, 21 games each. I can see them 6-15 after that first 21 games, that first quarter, and making business decisions and getting rid of guys. That's the difference between these teams that are 10-15 every year in their conference. There's not a lot of reprieve. There's not a lot of hope after the first quarter.
So I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but if you think about it, though, Atlanta made the play-in last year at 36-46.
Yeah, but that would if I have you, because I think a lot of these trade conversations come about with trading this top talent, because like LaMelo Ball is a talented basketball player. He's probably one of the most talented ones on the Hornets. But when it doesn't work out, he's always on a chopping block. Same thing with New Orleans and Brandon Ingram. There's no reason for Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, Zion Williamson, for that not to work. You play 3 different spots on the floor. You play everything you do differently. You are literally
do your job.
You're a financially favorable version of KD or KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. Because like as far as like the space you create on the floor, because that's all you're creating a matchup with that kind of a dynamic group. For that not to work, it's a coaching thing or it's a chemistry thing. And I think with LaMelo Ball, if they are starting out 7-14, 6-15, those trade rumors are going to ramp up and they're going to purge, because the owners still split revenue. The owners still get paid off the overall check that the NBA gives. Right. So it's not as if I trade LaMelo Ball and I got to drop these ticket prices from $250 to $125. He's still getting paid off the fact that they have this TV deal. He or she or whatever, whoever is the trustee of the group.
And that looks like
I feel like a lot of these teams. I feel like a lot of these teams are just kind of, because you don't go from worst to first in the NBA ever. No, it just doesn't happen.
It's not set up that way.
So if I'm the coach of the team, if I'm the GM of a team, and we're going to our third or fourth year right now, it's 2024, 2025 season. If I'm one of these teams, it's like, this is about to be our 4th consecutive year, 2 teams out of the play-in, like our 4th consecutive year, and we're battling to get 12. Then once I recognize that by December, it's a reverse big story. Come get whatever you want.
Right. So then the last team I'll talk about before we get out of here is Toronto, because now no OG Anunoby, no Pascal Siakam, all Scotty Barnes now. So he was drafted to be the future of the Raptors. He was drafted to be a 6'10" point guard. They went out and got Emmanuel quickly. They went out and got RJ Barrett. They brought in Bruce Brown last year. They went and drafted Grady Dick. So Toronto has the requisite parts, I believe, around Scotty Barnes for Scotty Barnes to play the role that they want him to play. The question is, can Scotty Barnes be what Toronto needs him to be or wants him to be? They have Jakob Poeltl, go Utes, in the front court. So I think Toronto's going to be a pesky team, your typical 8 seed that, just plays hard basketball, plays tough, ain't got a chance in hell to beat anybody with a pulse, but they'll be the grinder team that potentially gets into the play-in.
Well, the beauty part, like I said, 66% of the league makes the playoffs. So if you want to rest your hat on that as a GM or an owner, then you're good to go.
Well, I mean, it depends on your status, right? It's progress. You know what I mean? Like if you're a team that won 20 games, like the Spurs, if you're the Spurs and, you won, 22 games maybe last year,
Something along those lines, yeah.
The play-in is an accomplishment because that probably means that you've won 15 to 16 more games than the year prior. You know what I mean? So, but obviously, if you're a team like, say, Memphis, bringing back Ja Morant, you're not trying to hear play-in.
And then you draft Zach Edey, big body in the middle, a lot. It's a
Yeah, so it
Canadian,
just depends on
Adams.
who you are. Like, I think for a team like Toronto, like I think for a team like Atlanta, you're like, yo, I'm fucking tired of the play-in. Like, we live in the play-in. You know what I mean? So, like, even though they're not necessarily
Don't trade away all your talent when it gets a little rocky.
Just saying, but if you're a team like Charlotte, you're just happy to be on TV. First of all, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Charlotte has a star.
They do.
Charlotte has
Hey, Atlanta got a star.
A nationwide. I don't think. Granted, we don't really get in this whole like who's a bigger star.
People love Ice Trae.
Not that much. Not that much. I think LaMelo Ball. First of all, he's a ball.
Oh,
he's tall. He's very tall. He stands out. Tattooed up. He has the Facebook show. He has the brother. He has the dad. Like they have a whole mystique that comes along with it. I just think Charlotte's gonna be one of those teams that pulls the trigger, and he's gonna end up on the Clippers or something like that.
Speaking of which, said it's being projected that Lonzo Ball is actually gonna be on the court opening night.
It's incredible that he's missed so much time.
3 years. His last game was January 2021.
That was when, depends on what day of the week it was. That might have been like when they stormed the Capitol.
No, I think it was after that. I think it was after.
Think about how long ago that was. Like, but just think about all the stuff we went through, like COVID, and we had a whole election. And it was like, oh, maybe it was stolen, maybe it wasn't. Stormed the Capitol, and then you had all these other things happen. A whole new president. He damn near died. We have all this stuff happened from the last time he's played an NBA game, and he's in his 20s. It's just a strange,
maybe we'll have Trump get on TV and say that the Sixers are eating the Hornets.
They're eating the cat. They're eating cats.
You know what I'm saying? But we will be back on Monday Tuesday with reaction. We're going to talk about Jimbo Fisher and his NIL comments. So, do yourself a favor. Have some fun this weekend. Enjoy life. Enjoy football. And then do us a favor. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate. Do all the free things.
Absolutely.
Do all the good things. We love you. See you in a few days. Peace.